My mum asked me a really good question the other day, which is, how does war impact the price of Bitcoin? Now, if you think about this, there's two key drivers of the price for any asset. That's supply and demand for Bitcoin. If you think about the supply side, you've got supply of new Bitcoin, which is created through the Bitcoin mining process. And you've got supply of existing Bitcoin hitting exchanges from people that already hold Bitcoin. On the demand side, there's multiple possible reasons for people wanting to buy more or less Bitcoin, but we'll get into those later. First of all, looking on the supply side, the Bitcoin mining process is whereby miners are given a reward of Bitcoin for adding new blocks to the blockchain. No conflict scenario is going to impact the Bitcoin halving. So we can rule out global conflicts impact on the supply of new Bitcoin because it's purely programmatic. In terms of the supply of existing Bitcoin hitting exchanges and potentially creating a dampening effect on price, there are a number of reasons why people might look to sell the Bitcoin. So one is people focus on the essentials, which is food, energy, transport, shelter. People are less likely to hold investments if they need the cash to stay alive or survive. So that can be one driver of increased supply of Bitcoin. The second is as conflict unfolds, it's the belief that others will sell first triggers some people to try and then sell their Bitcoin before the others do. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in that sense. And the third is that during war and conflict, markets are a lot more volatile, and some people can't withstand that type of volatility, and so they end up selling over that period. Ultimately, that again can drive an increased supply of Bitcoin onto exchanges and put a dampening impact on price. I would say though that people talk around the 21 million total supply potential. As of today, there's 19.7 million Bitcoin that have been mined. 3.7 million of those are believed to be lost permanently. And so we're talking about a total potential supply of around 16 million Bitcoin today. So in terms of the other side of the supply-demand driver tree, we'll now look at the demand side. So what are some of the reasons that demand might increase during a time of crisis? Well, as countries and governments go to war, you typically get massive increases in spending. So for 2023 alone, the US spent $891 billion on military expenses. That's forecast to increase to over $1 trillion over the next 5 to 10 years. And so with more currency in circulation, yet the same amount of Bitcoin, that is a potential driver of additional demand that's going to come in. The second driver of demand is that as countries are engaged in warfare, countries are more likely to look for permissionless ways to transfer value and continue trading with friendly or even hostile nations. And so if you think about the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the US was able to seize $300 billion of Russian assets because they were based on the US's financial rails. So any US bonds, any US cash can all be frozen. And so Bitcoin provides a permissionless way for countries and governments to protect that value. A third demand driver of Bitcoin is citizens and refugees during a wartime crisis that are looking to flee their country. They obviously can't take their house with them, and it's very difficult to take gold bars and cash. However, Bitcoin provides a means of taking most of your net worth, memorizing a few words in your head. If you can get across the border safely and into a safe country once again, you can effectively access your net worth through memorizing your seed phrase and having access to that Bitcoin. So during times of war, people are more likely to buy Bitcoin when they need to flee a war zone. Ultimately, nobody knows how the price will be impacted in the short or long term. But if we draw parallels to the Russia-Ukraine conflict once again, the price corrected about 59% to the downside at the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine conflict in February 2022, before rising 322% up until where it is today, around the $65,000 mark. What does this mean? Well, yes, in the short term, war creates a fear of volatility. Markets tend to sell off. But what gives me more confidence is that over the long term, more currency gets printed because of war. And, that's not a good thing for the countries involved in war, not a good thing for people not involved in war, because you suffer debasement of currency. So Bitcoin, in my view, will still appreciate in the long term because there's more currency units chasing the same amount of Bitcoin. I hope you found that somewhat interesting. I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Please like and subscribe to the channel.